to the heart of the story. Maybe he had some deformity in his eardrums. Now, that would be part of the movie.
Oh, I hate these shows. I thought I just like them. You know, when they're good.
You're here for the Godless show's second year running, is that right?
I think it's the third year running.
Oh, third year running.
The third year, yeah.
And how have you found it?
Well, you know, I don't know, because I was working tonight. I got here at 10 o'clock. It had been going on for 3 hours by the time I got here. And I wasn't able to hear anyone else's act from backstage, so I don't know. No idea what it's been like. It seems fine.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's sort of... You know, you're kind of aware that it's such a broad church, to use an inappropriate metaphor, that there's probably people here who are fans of highfalutin science. There's probably people here who are fans of, like, you know, culty left field music, and there's probably people here that are fans of sort of Robin Ince type cardigan wearing comedy. And you know, basically, I think it may be that everything goes 2/3 less well than it normally would, because always 66.6% of the audience were here for the other thing. But I think it is like it's a variety show that's good, you know. And it does. It's funny, like journalists love to say things like, "Oh, it's become, you know, for London, it's become part of the Christmas calendar," but I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that will be the case. You know, I'm not quite sure it is now.
Still a little bit niche.
It's a bit premature to say.
What's a typical Stewart Lee fan then, if you could describe one?
I don't know really. I don't know. I'm always surprised by people that are there. I mean, my cynical producer says they look like Terry Pratchett readers. I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means either.
Yeah, I don't know what that means. But yeah, listen to me. I mean, they're normally quite polite afterwards. I always try to flog stuff afterwards, and they're not horrible. I mean, I think I would hope they're like me, you know, because I sort of feel like I'm never going to have 10 million fans, but the 800,000 that I've seem to be watching the telly programme, and the 50,000 that come live, I imagine there's probably enough people that are like me that they go, oh, that's the same as what I think. But, you know, you can't. Richard Thomas, the composer, he always used to say, if you can't fit in, don't try and compete. You know, and you just like hold on to the little. I think obviously it's not why you do it, and we even get paid now. But I think that part of this sort of thing is. Weirdly, it never really occurred to me, but you probably do pick up some you probably pick up some audience members from this sort of thing, of maybe people that come along for the scientists and the writers and the philosophers, see stand-ups that they are surprised they like, because I think people have a very fixed idea of what stand-up is, and it doesn't tend to encompass most of the sorts of people that Robin puts on.
What's your favourite kind of stand-up?
I don't know, I mean, it's a weird question to ask a comic, because when you ask a comedian what their favourite stand-up is, most comedians tend to choose people the public have never heard of, right? The other thing about being a comic is that you can admire something without necessarily liking it. You know, like, there's a weird thing where lots of comics, when pressed, will admire Bernard Manning's timing and sort of stagecraft, whilst actively disliking what he did. So it's an odd thing, I think, because we're all in it together, and everyone who's a comic knows what it's like to be on stage and to try and turn a room round. You tend to have quite a broad spread of people that you can like. I mean, I'm sort of morbidly fascinated at the moment by Michael McIntyre. It's sort of I keep watching it, and I can't quite figure it out.
He gets a lot of stick, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does, from comedians. Interestingly,
yeah.
But the public, but he's the public's favourite comedian. So I suppose that's an interesting juxtaposition. Is sort of, what is it the public's seen it that we don't? There must be something about it that is really working, and so it's kind of interesting to try and figure that out, and it's sort of head-scratchingly fascinating to me, where I sort of but then if you actually said to me who are your favourite comics, it would be, you know, it's ossified a bit really after 20 years. I mean, Lenny Bruce historically, and then when I was a teenager, Ted Chippington, who was not known then and isn't known now. And really, the funniest thing about him was that he deliberately tried not to be funny. And then, you know, when I was starting out, Arnold Brown, who was a Scottish deadpan guy, very much in the shadow of Chick Murray, who I also like, who did like weird one-liners. And Jerry Sadowitz, who was offensive to everyone in a way that I don't think people today can quite understand. He did it from the absolute bottom of the pile, so it's very different to being a high-status bully. It's quite interesting. Norman Lovett, I liked when I started out. It was another miserable, quietly spoken man. But I really like Harry Hill, at the other end of the spectrum of kind of silly, surreal people. I really like Paul Sinner at the moment, who's a gay Hindu guy who talks, you know, about life from that perspective, which is very educational. And you know, again, they tend not to be. I think that most of the comics like tend not to be people that people have heard of, because we see everyone, you know, and we know who they are.